How's it going, everyone? So we have this 5.5 horsepower Tecumseh. I think this is a Sportsman. Excuse me, Powermate. Yeah, Coleman Powermate 3,000 watt generator. At least I think it's 3,000. Oh, surge is 3750. That's nice. Anyway, so it's a true 3,000 watts. Now, owner says that the recoil doesn't retract. So I think we're going to look in that first. In addition to that, I checked the oil. Oil's fine. I did smell the fuel, and this fuel was ugh. So we might have a problem with that. I think the first thing, though, we're going to try to fix the recoil, because that's going to be annoying. But let me tell you the story behind this machine. Owner bought it brand new, and he said he maybe has 2 hours on it, which probably means closer to 5 or 6. It's not bad for a machine of this age. Very, very clean. It just suffers from sitting, hence the fuel issue and the recoil issue. I think what happened is a lot of junk got in there. So, unfortunately, Tecumseh decided it was a brilliant idea to put rivets instead of screws on that. So in order for us to take a look at the back end of it, we're going to remove the whole cover. We can do that if we need to, but I think we're going to try a little WD-40 first. First things first, let's make sure that the recoil doesn't retract. So it will retract. It's just very, very slow. So how this ends up working is there's like a little open area that there's a spring connects to, and the spring kind of folds over it, and there's usually a way for you to, I think I see it there. We can just take a quick look, see if I find it anywhere else. No, I'm not seeing anything else. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves a trusty can of WD-40 and do a little spraying. In addition to that, I'm going to spend a little bit of time. I'm going to look inside and see if I can't see how this exactly works. Tecumsehs are a little bit different. Okay, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. I can see the dogs. That's a good thing. I think what I'm going to do first, before I try to spray inside where the spring is, because I really don't think the problem is in the spring, I'll try to spray those dogs. I think the problem is that they are staying open and it's not really letting it retract. And it just slowly kind of like moves out of the way because they're really gooey. So I put a decent amount on half of it. Let's try the other half. Spin it over a little bit. Okay. Now, I'm just going to pull on it and see if it help freeze it up a little bit. It's already doing better. Doing substantially better. So, I think that was it. I think it was just dry. And look at that. We didn't even have to pull off the cover. Oh, yeah. Seems fine to me. So we're going to do probably two things. One, I made a video about how sometimes you can get your machine to run with just spraying a little carb clean. It kind of cleans out the jet. And someone had mentioned that that does work. However, it doesn't always work. And I agree. But then, for whatever reason, that same person apparently was just watching videos back and forth and mentioned that I should have tried just doing the carburetor cleaner through the jet of the carb, and it would have ran just fine. Well, it kind of will work, but not the way that they were thinking. They were thinking I should have sprayed through the throat. I was saying if you bend the actual straw that comes with this sometimes, you can spray down the emulsion tube and it will clean it out if it's a mild plug. I don't think we have a mild plug. I think we have a very large plug because of what the oil smells like. I think for giggles, we're going to try that. See if it will turn on and move forward. However, I think one of two things are going to happen. One is going to work, not going to work at all. Excuse me. Or two, if it will work, it's going to surge. Pretty sure this isn't going to work, but we're going to try it anyway. Didn't spray through the emulsion, just sprayed directly through the carb. Turn this to on. Let's try this again. Kind of spat through the carb, not a good sign. And do we even have spark? That is on, right? Yeah, it's on. You might just pour directly through the plug. However, it is concerning. This is how this motor gets starts. It is a primer. So fuel goes in there through the throat. Plug is dry. Pretty decent looking. There's green spewing out there. That's usually not a good sign. At the very least, we're gonna have to drain a tank. Because there's about a half a tank in there, maybe a little under. I'm sure what we're going to do is, like I said, one of two things. Keep on doing it, and eventually it might run for a little bit, but it's going to be so lean that it's going to surge and not have enough power. So, what we have is a brand new carburetor to put in. It is an aftermarket carb, but here's the thing. You can rebuild these. Rebuild kit. It's a kind of weird kit. It has a gasket for the jet, also has a bowl gasket, and that's about it. I think there's a Welch plug in there actually, something small like that. But for whatever reason, it doesn't come with the primer bulb. Now you can get one with a primer bulb, or you can buy the primer bulb separate. And if you don't know what a primer bulb is, it's this red piece. Now here's my problem with this primer bulb. It is very aggravating to install. You can do it. It's just not very easy to install. It takes a lot of extra work. Primer bulb itself, or the one with the kit that has it, pushing $10 to $11 last time I looked for it, like a couple days ago when I went to go pick this up. This one was $12.99. We're not going to worry about that. I took the screws out already. There's just 2 Phillips screws for this out. Looks like there's a 5/16 holding it there. I don't think we're gonna have to worry about that all that much. We may want to. Oh, I just realized there is no fuel shut off for this, so we're gonna want to take a clamp, like a pair of vice grips, and put it on the fuel line on the other side. The fuel line actually feels pretty good. Maybe from this side would be easier. It's gonna leak a little bit because whatever fuel is in the line. Come on. Wow, nothing can really go on there. Okay, so what we need to do, it's going to be really hard to see because there's no light. On the top, there's a whole lot of holes where the throttle linkage can go into. We need to figure out which one it goes into. And this one goes into the hole the right of the two. So let's remember that. So there's two ways you can do this. One, these aren't always the best. Jetted machine or options. What? Apparently, the other side you have to have like a Phillips. The intake curved around it caused it to be a little bit too big for the socket. Anyway, so you could take off the old jet, clean it out real nice, and put it in, or you can just go ahead and put the whole carb on and try it later. And if you need to, the jet's on the bottom, so it's not like it's very difficult to take out. I'm gonna do the first one. It's a little bit less work, potentially. The crankcase vent still on the carb too. The owner didn't know how long he owned this, but he said it was on sale for $189 when he got it, I believe. Okay, there we can see the linkage. But what we don't want to do is to just instantly put that there. I'm going to find like a container so I can drain some of that fuel. Okay, here's what came out of it. Now, red is an awfully interesting color to see. And it does smell old too, but red, that's pretty old. Or it's 2-cycle oil in there. Now, did the gasket come off? Yes, it did. Okay. It's very important you check the intake gasket, because if you do not, well, you're going to regret it. It will have an intake, it will have a vacuum leak, and nothing good comes from that. Put one in first. We're going to take off our linkage. Put it on our arm. We're just going to bend that out of our way. It's just a piece of thin metal, so it's not going to be too much of a problem. Got the linkage on. It wasn't the easiest thing in the world, but we got it on. You have to be pretty careful because you don't want to mess anything up with the governor. So you don't want to just go around pulling on it all crazy like. Not 13. Well, maybe you are. I'm not. There we go. Once you get it on hand tight, then putting the can tightened up is a lot easier. Now for the back one, I just shove it onto the screw and I just use the screwdriver to kind of drive itself in, and as long as it's not cross-threaded, it's fine. Now we put the crankcase vent back on and we reconnect the fuel line. There we go. And we take our 2 Phillips head screws. Is there another gasket in the box? There's not one in the box. Can we take it off of the machine, the old carb? We can. Took off the old gasket. If for any reason you can't, wow, I don't want to say it's a good idea. It's not the end of the world. You just want to make sure that you don't get in the habit of doing that. There we go. That's nice and started. I'm just going to do the other screw and then we'll be back. Cover sufficiently on there. Unfortunately, I do not have a new air filter. I ordered one just now because I realized I didn't have one. So it's going to be here tomorrow. For the time being, this one is just suffering from bad fuel. So it's not like it's a bad thing to use it momentarily, but long term we're definitely not going to want to do that. Okay, at this point in time I think we are ready to put some fuel in there and see if it works. Okay, so we have the table lowered. Let's get this taken out. I usually don't film myself doing this, but let's have a quick chat about fuel. In here, there's like a minuscule amount of fuel. However, it is old fuel, but it does not look like it has water. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put like 4 or 6 ounces in there, just enough to test it. It's going to water down the bad fuel. Now that is non-ethanol premium. That's about 3 weeks old. It still has like 11 months of good shelf life left. So the watered down bad fuel shouldn't be a problem. Now this only works if it's old fuel and not necessarily fuel with water in it. Water, that's a completely different story. You want to drain that, dry it out as much as you can, replace the fuel lines if necessary. If it has a fuel filter, it is necessary to replace that. Stuff like that. But considering there is no fuel filter, and considering that everything else was fine, it's just old fuel, I think we should be okay. Gonna put my hand underneath the carb. It is dry. Let's see if it works. Sometimes with newer carbs, you need to give them a few extra presses. Kind of work the fuel through everywhere. Or if you run a machine dry. Wasn't exactly what I was expecting, but let's try this again. Definitely how much I thought was in there. I'm gonna do that a few times and see if I can figure out what's going on. Couple problems here. One, we're not making power, and two, the RPM range is about 2700. It's not usually good. It should be about 36, so it's definitely running very slow. I'm hoping that we just have to flash it. If we do, then that's easy enough to take care of. But if we don't, then that could be a problem. Another thing I think could be a problem is the engine isn't going fast enough, potentially, to start making power. Usually that's not the case, but it is an option. I'm even going to do a little thinking here. So that little screw, or nut, is the adjustment for the engine speed. So, thinking we're going to speed it up, because the spring that's attached to that, the other end, goes to the governor arm, it has almost, there's little to no tension at all. In fact, there's actually slack. So it could just be not wound up tight enough. So let's go ahead and turn it back on. We'll reconnect the tachometer, and then we will see if that brings power back. Turn it back on. Tachometer is on there. I think before I do that, I'm just going to double check that the screw on the back side of the carburetor is still tight, because that is the one I manually put on with my hand strength only. Now it's still tight. I was thinking maybe there was like the gasket wasn't seating all the way, or it got loose and it had a vacuum leak. But no. The reason why it wasn't is because it wasn't spinning fast enough. So that's good. We now have power. It said it was running at 54 hertz. And the tachometer, I got up to about 3150, 3200 RPM. But then it started surging, so I stopped. So I think what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to put in that other jet, because this is not adjustable. Yeah, no, it's not. So let's go ahead and put in that other jet from the other one. It's really simple. I'm not going to bore you with that. Half inch. Don't drop the bowl. Just put it in, and that's it. So I'm in the process of doing this. Now, two things about Tecumseh jettings. There is actually a small hole on the top of the threads. I don't know if you can tell, but you need to make sure that's clean. If it doesn't, it's going to have problems. And as well as the one down the center, like you would expect. Second, they have numbers on the bottom of them. So what I pulled out was a 166. I think I'm going to shove in, I have a different one. It's a 169. It's a little bit bigger. So I'm going to do that. And then we'll see if it runs rich. If it does, we'll put in the one that came off the old carb. A little safer on the ground, well, closer to the ground. It's getting a little vibratey there earlier, so on. still doing basically the same thing. And it's a bigger jet. So, that's an interesting one. Something we could check is the valve clearance, but the only reason why I even say that is originally I saw it blow out all the carb spray when I tried to start it through the throat. But I don't know. I'm thinking potentially we could even have maybe the gasket for the intake is a little loose or shrunk or old. So I'm going to tighten that up and I'll see what's going on. And here we are. One of the intake screws was a little bit loose. It was the one closest to the muffler. So it's 3/8. Took a open-ended wrench, tightened it down. So I'm hoping that was it. It wasn't super loose. It was maybe like a quarter of a turn loose. So I don't know if that was just not snug enough or I'm just putting it too tight. I don't know yet. But we do have our 3/8 to adjust the governor screw if we need it. Let's give it a pull. See if we need choke or maybe to prime it. Whew. Yeah, no, that was definitely a lot better. Yeah, maybe that was just it. The intake was just a little bit too lean, or the mixture was too lean because the vacuum leak. The only thing that is a little concerning is I kind of want to go a little bit bigger in jetting because it still kind of sounds to me like it's a little lean. And it did code down pretty decently from about 62 hertz down to about 57 with a, what is it, 1700 watt load? 1800 watts. So what is that? That's like 2/3. So, you know, it could be better. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill out that jet. I do have other ones that I might actually just see how big they are and drill out the jet that came with the machine, because that one would be, in my opinion, a better idea, because that jet, while it is an OEM jet, I would rather use this one. I mean, it's the newer and probably would just be a better idea. So I'm going to go ahead, drill it out, and I'll be back. So I found out which one my micro drill bits fit into 169. I drilled out the one that came with this carb with the one that's the next size up. So I'm fingers crossed it's going to work. I have a feeling it will because it was surging a little bit before, and that's usually just a sign of leanness. And if you, I mean, obviously it's not smell-o-vision, but this exhaust smells different. You could tell if something's running rich, and it doesn't smell like that at all with a bigger jet. So I'm going to assume it was just lean. or the carburetor's junk and we need to repair the old one. One of the two.
Yeah.
Turn it on. See if the choke or the prime needs to be done. Now I know you didn't see any of that. You probably just saw my head. However, let me explain. That's 62 hertz. And however, that was with the load on. So I lowered it down. I forgot the heat gun was on. Turned it off. As soon as it did that, I went down up to like 64. Turned it back down to about 61.5, 1.7. Turned the heat gun back on, and now it was sitting at about 59.9, 60.1, around there. At 2/3 load, I'm okay with that. The exhaust isn't pumping out anything black and nasty. It appears to be pretty decent. So I think we are good to go under a decent load. It's not really struggling. We are now at a good fuel level or fuel mixture, and the output is back and having no issue. So I'm going to go ahead and consider that a good thing. I think I'm going to do maybe a little bit more fine tuning. I'm going to put it on the floor and see if it will just consistently, because we did have that problem where it would be different every time we turned it on. So I'm going to do that a couple more times. If it has any more problems, I'll bring it back. But if not, I think we're good to go. Like you see, keep watching, subscribe, follow me on Instagram at SmallEngine101. If you have any questions about this, leave a comment below. If this helped you out, leave a thumbs up. It definitely helps me out. And I'll catch you in the next one. You have a good night.